Right, so question one. Question one is always about describing two features of something to do with Whitechapel. So this could be anything at all, from two features of living conditions, or two features of workhouses, or two features of social reform, of two features of immigration, even to the horrors of two features of socialism, last year's question. The key thing here is to think about how we're going to approach it. So the first thing we always want to do is to name our feature, which we'll call feature one. And the next one we're going to need to do is to describe our feature. And we will call this describe feature one. Obviously, we're going to need to do this twice. So again, naming feature two and describing feature two. So if we were to take the question of, let us say, something like immigration. The first thing we'd need to think about is actually, what does immigration look like in Whitechapel? Well, certainly in the period of the 1880s, where we're looking at, we know that one of the key features of immigration to Whitechapel was that they were Eastern Europeans. So our first feature is Eastern Europeans coming to Whitechapel. And now we need to talk about that. So why are they coming to Whitechapel? Or how are they coming to Whitechapel? Or why is Whitechapel perhaps attractive? Well, let's start with the concept that we're talking about here, which is Eastern Europeans. Why do we have Eastern Europeans coming? So we know that they were coming mostly from Russia. So, and the other thing we know Russian emigres. And the other thing we know is that actually a lot of them were fleeing persecution. What else do we know about the immigrants to Whitechapel? Well, actually, we know there were quite a large number of Jewish immigrants. So, and again, these are from Russia. So we need to talk about perhaps something to do here with the concept of them being Jewish. Why is it that they're coming? Well, we know that actually that the Russian authorities had begun a pogrom, which is a persecution so we could have that. We could also have that they brought their own culture and language. For example, Jewish people introduced the bagel to England, and also they spoke Yiddish, which is a mixture of Germanic languages and Hebrew, and to a certain extent a bit of Russian as well. So there we have it. Now, bearing in mind this is 4 marks, that's 1 mark, that's 1 mark, that's 1 mark, that's 1 mark. We do not need 2 bits of detail in the answer. However, there's no harm in doing this if we've got the time, because if we get something that isn't quite right, for example, we've got a backup one. This belt and braces approach is all right if you know you've got the time. Remember, this is a 5-min question. We don't need to plan it. We can just attack it straight into the paper. But having those little extra points will do the job. Remember, we do not need to explain it. Explanation is not required, because the question is describe.